All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm so glad that you were able to join this week. So I know you had some questions that you were working with some um, actual credit improvement that you were working on, credit restoration, and congratulations to you for being able to raise your bottom line score as far as your fiscal was concerned. And I am hoping that you had an opportunity to reach out to the lender that I referred you to, Global Touch Mortgage, as you were going to try to apply for that mortgage under your personal name rather than your company name. So I just wanted to reach out to you to just make certain that you were walking in that direction. I know that you stated that you wanted to meet today, so I'm not quite sure what things you want to meet about, but I want to go over some things with you recently that I have been recording and sending out and teaching. And it has to do a lot with chapter 12 in the book, but what I'm teaching expounds a little bit more. So in chapter 12 in the Easy Corporate Comprehensive Curriculum for New Business Owners, this book, Chapter 12 talks about corporate budgeting and how you budget for your company's operations, for investments, for payroll, for retained earnings to continue to operate your company. So I wanted to make sure that you got that recording. If you don't have it, I will send it to you. But I want to just make sure you know some of the things that were involved in there. So along the way, I've been talking to you guys about the fact that you're going to be making um, money. You're going to have revenue coming in for your projects and your situations. And so when that money comes in, if you continue to just use it all on operating or paying employees or purchasing supplies, what's going to happen is that you're never going to have anything to invest. So I want to make sure that you understand some ways that you can invest without releasing a whole lot of money. So, in some of these teachings, I've been explaining to you guys about investing in tax certificates. A lot of you are already doing it, but there are some of you who are not doing it. And I want to make sure that you're aware that that is one opportunity for you to invest in tax certificates. So there's a full teaching on this and a couple of videos that I've made to just give an understanding of how this works. So a quick synopsis would be when property owners are behind on paying their property taxes, when they're behind, when they're delinquent, instead of the tax commissioner's office foreclosing, because a lot of states, a lot of their counties will foreclose, but there are some states, their counties won't foreclose. What they'll do is they'll begin to sell tax certificates for the delinquent taxes. That gives you, as an investor, as a business owner, the opportunity to purchase those tax certificates. Now, when you purchase a tax certificate, what you're saying is you're going to pay those delinquent property taxes with an understanding that if the property owner pays their property taxes within the 3-year redemption period, that you expect to get the amount that you have invested to purchase the tax certificate with interest, because most counties pay interest. They pay interest on the amount that you've invested for your tax certificate. And so it would be a matter of just verifying the amount of interest that they do pay for tax certificates. And different counties vary. In some counties in Alabama, they pay anywhere from 12% to 16%. Okay. So that's an excellent return for sometimes a minimum investment. Sometimes you can purchase a tax certificate for as little as $500 or $600. That's right. Now, suppose the property owner does not pay their property taxes within the redemption period. Well, what happens at that point is that the tax commissioner's office will issue to you a purchase certificate. This is what happens in the various states that sell tax certificates for delinquent taxes. They issue to you a purchase certificate. That purchase certificate says that you have paid the delinquent taxes on their property and that the redemption period for the owner to be able to purchase the property or pay off their property taxes has expired. So then you take that purchase certificate, not right at the time that it's been issued to you. Normally, you're going to wait another maybe 4 months after the fact, after receiving the purchase certificate, into the office that stores or keeps a recording of all the mortgages and deeds. That could be in Alabama, the judge of probate's office. In Georgia, it may be the clerk of a superior court. In Tennessee, it might be the register of deeds. In South Carolina, it might be the clerk of courts. In Florida, it may be a circuit court. It just depends on what state you're located and which you're located. But what you want to ask the tax assessor's office is, what is the name of the office that house the mortgages and deeds that have been recorded? That's the office that you go to, and you give them that purchase certificate, and they will in turn prepare a quitclaim deed to issue to you. Now, that does not guarantee that there are no other liens or judgments on that property. There could be some outstanding liens on the property. Could very well be some outstanding liens on the property. What you do when you get that quitclaim deed, actually, when you get the purchase certificate from the tax commissioner's office, you want to have a title abstract done. Yeah, you want to have a title abstract done. And that brings me to the other course that we teach, title abstracting made simple. Now, the reason why we teach this is because we have been an abstracting and title company since 1993. Since 1993. Yeah, we have been incorporated and we have done title abstracts since then, abstracting and title company. So that being the case, and I'm a licensed title agent, you need to hire a licensed title agent or some type of abstracting company to research the title of that property to see if there are any other liens or judgments encumbering that property, any other outstanding mortgages that may be out encumbering that property, because you now have the title, legal title to the property. Chances are there's no mortgage, because normally mortgage companies they'll pay the delinquent taxes so that they can have the priority position on the property's title. It may be a private lender that's involved, and in cases like that, they may or may not pay the taxes. They may not even be aware that the taxes are delinquent. And so what you want to do is you want to have an title abstract done as soon as you receive that purchase certificate, because that means that you're next in line for that property to be conveyed, that property's title to be conveyed to you. Okay, so that's just something that I want to make sure that you keep in mind. Sometimes when people are trying to get themselves organized in terms of a company, it's difficult for them to juggle more than one task. But if you are in a position, I want you to remember that as you have funds coming in, that you can purchase tax certificates, because it's an excellent way for a small company to invest. It's an excellent way, one, because whatever you invest in paying the delinquent taxes is going to be refunded to you if the property owner pays their taxes. You get back the amount that you invested plus interest. And again, I know about the interest in the state of Alabama. It's anywhere from 12 to 16%. That's a nice little profit margin there. Okay, also, if they don't pay their property taxes, if that property owner doesn't pay their property taxes, and then it goes into default, then the county will issue to you a purchase certificate, meaning that you're next in line to hold title to that property. After a few months, you take that to the office that houses the mortgages and deeds in Alabama. It's the judge of probate's office, and they will issue to you a quitclaim deed, conveying you any right that they may have in the interest of the property. And then at that point, or even like I said, as soon as you get that purchase certificate, you need to have a title search done on the property so you can determine whether or not there are any other open mortgages or liens on that property that would take precedence over your vested interest in the property. Okay, that's an excellent way for you to invest in real estate and have a pretty nice profit margin. It's an excellent way. So I want you to bear that in mind. And then we also talked about with the funds that you guys are getting, that you're earning, and remember, with tax certificates, investment, the initial investment can be as low as $500 to $600. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to mention to you is bonds. So we talked about leveraging your cash with bonds. We've talked about this before. So you can choose to purchase bonds. Now, if you purchase, let's say, Treasury bonds, then of course you would be investing in the government. And those Treasury bonds, I think, some of them mature between 8 to 10 years. I mean, I believe it's like 10 years. They have a certain amount of interest that they pay. If you take a look at the other video that I've actually made, then it has a link, and the curriculum that goes along with it. There's a link for the Treasury, direct Treasury, so that you know how to invest in those things. Each one of these have a link that directs you to the place that you can call for further information, because I am not an investment broker. I'm just giving you some ideas regarding this curriculum, so that as your corporation is amassing small to large amounts of money, you can put it to work for you, because the value of the money that you have is not the amount that it's not the face amount. So if you have $1 million or $3 million in your retained earnings, it is not, the value of it is not $3 million. The value, you have to determine the present value of that money, which is probably going to be less than $3 million, which is why you want to, as soon as possible, put it into something that's going to begin to yield more leverage on the amount of money that you have. If you send it into the future, you can begin to leverage on the amount of cash that you've invested. And over time, you can take advantage of the proposed value, the future value of that money versus the present value. But if you leave it the way that it is, the present value is already less than what the face amount is. And the longer you go with it like that, not in something that's going to leverage it, it just means that you are losing more and more value in the dollar amount of what the money is worth. So when you get it and you have certain portions that you can invest, you want to do that. Even if you think you can invest it, what you got to keep remembering is that the amount that you think that you're holding on to is not even worth the amount that you have. Is the value is less than the face amount. So you've got to send it forward, put it into something that can accumulate leverage, and the future value will be greater than the value that you currently have. That's the whole objective. And why are you doing that as a corporation? So that, okay, so I explained to you guys how we weren't doing that in the past. We were buying things like real estate. We were buying land. We had land. We were accumulating land, and those type things. But you want to have something that's going to be yielding. So marketable securities are good because they're going to be yielding a certain amount of interest that you can then reinvest, or you can put that in a different fund, maybe to start to invest in real estate. But you always want to be sending that money into the future so that you can get a leverage on the amount of cash that you have based on the future value of the money and not the current value. Does that make sense? Yeah. hmm So, and we weren't doing that. So whenever we would have a downturn of business, then we had mutual funds and things like that, which is fine. That's fine. But then when if you have a serious downturn in the market, then you're gonna probably have to sell some of those shares, which is what we ended up having to do along the way, just to pay simple things, just to get certain standard things done, depending on how much of a turn the market takes, or how much of a nosedive the market takes. Now, of course, it's going to come back again. It always comes back, but it just depends on how you've leveraged your cash so that you not only stay afloat, but you can continue to progress. And I learned that this is a way that you can send your money into project it into the future and take advantage of leveraging your cash based on future value, if that makes sense. And you keep doing that and keep doing that and that's working for you while you're also working your company and all of your standard operating procedures and your clientele and your orders or your projects. You're still working that. Your company is still working as far as that's concerned, obtaining revenue, but you've got that other money that's just it's just constantly working for you and it's creating revenue. But that revenue is based on not the face value of the present value of that money, but it's based on the projected future value of that money, meaning that it's worth more. You're producing an amount of money that's worth more than what the present value of your money is. Okay, so and that's good because it's like having something totally different working for you as far as your company is concerned, because the company projections and productions will go up and they will go down. They will fluctuate because it's based on human preview. And because of that, that can fluctuate. It can plummet, it can rise. When it plummets, that's when you have to pivot. You have to figure out what it is that you're going to do to remain in business and to consistently be able to operate. And that's why it's better to do it so that you are going to be utilizing the future value of funds that you have working for you. Because that money is going to be worth more than the present value of your money. You're looking at the face amount, but it's worth less than that right now, but you can leverage it and send it forward. And that's what we didn't do initially. And I now understand that. And so I teach that because I understand how important it is. So we talked about tax certificates. We talked about bonds. Bonds, whenever you can do mutual bonds, you can do treasury bonds, or you can decide to invest in corporate bonds. If you invest in corporate bonds, what you're doing is you're loaning that particular company money for them to be able to operate a particular project that they're working on at the time, if that makes sense. Okay, so Apple has a corporate bond. So many of the companies have a corporate bond. They've got a 2026 series that's available. And I think it pays like 5.25, maybe 5.5%. And it matures in maybe 24, 36 months. That's one that you may want to look into. Remember, I'm not a licensed individual. I'm not licensed to do this at all. This is just information that I'm sharing with you so you can decide to reach out to whoever your broker is, and they can help you with your particular investments. But these are some things that you can ask them about so that they can give you the particulars to help you make a decision. So after you've decided whether or not you're going to invest in bonds, and you can leverage again your cash with bonds with tax certificates. Once you've decided, then you want to put something in place called a standard of operating procedures, financial standards of operating procedures. So what that is, now if you look in chapter 12, it talks about budgeting, right? It talks about managing your account so that you always keep your AR up. Now I want to say this to you. Your accounts receivables is vital. You've got to keep your AR report up, because if you ever decide that you want to borrow money, you want to partner with someone, an investor may be interested in investing in a particular project that you're involved in or something that you're marketing, they're going to want to see your accounts receivables. It shows what you're doing, what your company's doing. So let's say you just did a project, you're nonprofit, okay, or you partner with nonprofit organizations, because I work with a couple of corporations. They don't have their 501(c), but they do participate in several nonprofit projects, and they partner with nonprofit organizations. And of course, when they partner with nonprofit organizations, a lot of people are not familiar with this, but you can actually write off the expenses that you incur by using the 501(c) of the company that you're partnering with, because they can write a letter of affiliation and put it in their corporate minutes showing that they often partner with you as an affiliate. And so you incur costs. You also provide capital contributions into that particular project where you're investing your own money or your company's money in conjunction with them investing, and you guys are spending money. Now the money that they're releasing and they're expending can be written off. The way that yours can be written off is underneath that 501(c). So when you do your company's taxes, you can write off a certain amount that you have expended, and you can write it off underneath the umbrella of their 501(c). So just remember that, because that's a project that you've done in conjunction with theirs. So if you're wondering how your company, which is not a nonprofit, can operate in conjunction with a company that is a nonprofit in terms of having their 501(c), and you can have your expenses written off, that's how. But anyway, in this chapter, chapter 12, standard operating procedures regarding financial. So, financial standard operating procedures. It talks about, firstly, being consistent with your procedures. So the first thing you want to do is make sure, when whatever project you're going to do, if you are a bills bonding company, every time you do a bond, you need to have your data entry person to enter it. And I know those can be hundreds a day, but they need to enter them, and they need to enter basic information there, including the amount of the money that you're going to glean. If it's a project that you're doing for the city or what have you, you want to list the name of that project. Always give your projects names. You list the name of the project, the county that you're doing the work in, and then the amount of capital contributions, that, the amount of money that you have expended to put on that particular project. That's if you're a non-profit, okay? And then whatever projected amount of donations that you are soliciting, that you are expecting to intake. And the way you do that, you don't wait for the people who are going to be attending the project to give you donations. You go ahead and seek out viable corporations that they give to obtain those donations, and you already have a projected amount that you are looking to raise, and that is what the amount that you put in your AR next to that particular project. Okay. Okay, so if you are an abstracting company, then every time you get an order for abstracts, you list that in there. If you're doing closings, the same thing. You're going to list it by the county, the order number, the borrower's name, and then the client's name that placed that order with you, and the dollar amount or the fee for that particular order, plus copies, and then the date that that document was submitted, the date that it was submitted. And then when you get paid for it, you list the date that it was paid. The purpose of the AR is to show the amount of your company's production, and you want to keep up with it. It could be pages and pages and oodles of listings, but you need to keep up with it. Second thing is leveraging your corporate liquidity through bond variations. So investing in tax certificates as diversified income stream, reinvesting any retained earnings for your sustainable growth. I know this because this is something that we didn't do in the first couple of decades. I didn't know anything about it. What we had was some mutual funds that my husband had from a previous job that he had worked, and then I added to that from the company. I deposited consistently over a period of time, but those are mutual funds. It was nothing as aggressive as tax certificates or bond variations. And then lastly, you want to budget a certain percentage to support any employees or contract labor that you may have, so that they will, you can set up structured deposits into a employee assistant program. That means that, okay, you might only use contract laborers or volunteers, but each time you do something, you take in a certain amount of donations. You want to take a percentage of it and put it into that account. So what happens is, from time to time, you can offer them a stipend, or they may run into financial problems, and you'll have this employee assistant program set up for them. This is another thing that we didn't do in our early years. So, but it's good to do, because when you have employees that are working for you, or contract labor or volunteers, and they are always there, Johnny on the spot for you, you need to show them how much you care by being available to assist them. Sometimes it may just be a tank of gas, but if you have consistently put a certain percentage aside for these kind of things, then in an employee assistance program, then when it's needed, you'll have it there. So if you want to talk about what percentage of your revenue you would put aside for these type of things, there are some suggestions that you'll see in chapter 12. But some of this information that I'm sharing with you is going to be in the new edition. So it's not actually in this edition of the book. It's in a new edition, but chapter 12 still has that budget there for how you want to operate your company, a standard operations procedures when it comes to financial investments. So You may want to take like 10% of your investment portfolio and then maybe another 10% of your investment portfolio for leveraging bonds, 10% for tax certificate. Or you could do this. Now, a lot of companies will do this. They will take 10% of their total revenue, period, right? And they'll put it in a fund. And then of that fund, they may divide it up, 10% of that fund into investment, like tax certificates, and then another 20% of that fund, not of your income, but of that fund into leveraging bonds. That is another way that it has been done. So our company has a standard operating procedure. And when funds come in, no matter how small or large they are, we take a certain percentage of it and we put it into account so that we're building revenue to purchase tax certificates, but we're also building revenue for all of these other opportunities that I have listed with you today. And I'm going to have to stop because our time is up. I hope that this information has been beneficial to you. And I'm going to send you this recording. Again, I know you requested that we meet today. I'm not quite sure what happened or if there was a breakdown in communication, but the time was for 5 p.m. And I didn't get a chance to see you log in. I don't see that you've logged in. But I think this information is going to be beneficial to you. I'm looking forward to speaking to you. And just a reminder, since you have been successful in increasing your score, your credit score, I want to make sure that you reach out to Global Touch Mortgage. I sent you that link a while ago. Reach out to them. And there was somebody else that we were working with, and they said that your minimum credit score needed to be a particular amount. So I want you to reach out to that individual as well. I think one of them you weren't able to reach. Now, let me tell you, it's a high turnover in the mortgage business, so it quite maybe quite possible that young lady may not even be a part of that company anymore, but that's okay. Somebody is there that is a broker, and those programs still exist. So if you're unable to reach her, you let me know, and I can find someone else at that company. But now, Global Touch Mortgage, I know you can reach them. They've been around for years, and they're very, very, very consistent. It's not that the other companies are consistent, but that particular loan officer may not be with that company any longer. But now that your rating is up, you want to quickly, because when you do those improvements, the rating doesn't always last. So you want to swiftly get on this and let them go ahead and get you pre-approved, um, and start the process rolling. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with this. And I'm hoping that if you have any further information regarding your application with those two companies, let me know. Okay. Really important so we can stay on task with that, because that's your objective, to be able to purchase real estate through your corporation. And you can start with doing it through your personal, and then you can just convey it to your corporation. And from there on out, you won't have a problem, because each time you go to borrow, you'll have significant collateral and you'll have a payment history. All right.